Hello and welcome to the broomstick workout. I'm sorry if some of you aren't being able to use your broomsticks at the moment to fly around. So like me, you're grounded. So let's work on some ideas on how we can use the broomstick. Now I've got an extra long one here. Don't stress if you don't have one, but it is going to be a useful modification for some people with tight shoulders. So I'm going to leave that down here, but I'm going to show you different ideas. So hopefully you have a broomstick or a mat or a mop stick at home. So my starting one for now is I'm going to take my stick, I'm going to leave one on the floor for now, and all I'm going to do is roll my feet. How delicious is this? Okay? Now, if you don't have a broomstick and you're going to rush out to buy one, well you can, make sure you get a lacquered one, okay? Or you can make this a home project. The reason is the lacquered ones won't warp as much as the unlacquered ones. And the warping will mean that you'll start to get all sorts of weird feelings when you do these exercises. Now, this exercise here is fantastic if you have plantar fasciitis, tight feet, or really you just want to get a little bit of sensation there. It's also nice for people when you have diabetes or peripheral neuropathy. So remember, if you've got a family member who's got diabetes, get them to do things like this to keep circulation in the feet. I used to do this after long plane flights. Guess I'm not doing that anymore, or for a while anyway. So then I like to get my stick and I'm just going to get it behind and you just roll it up and down the back of your leg. It's like you're making pasta or pastry, whatever culture you're from. Now, this is very nice. Well, nice is a strong word, but what you're going to do is make sure your hands are on the outside of the stick and you roll it up and down like this, okay? So it really is like you're rolling pastry. Don't do it like this. That's just going to rip hairs out. Might be useful if you haven't been to the beautician for a while, but you just roll it on the outside of the leg, and I like to sort of do a little bit down and then start to roll it back up. The advantage of doing it like this is it means that you can really try and help move some of the fluid that can build up in your legs when you've been sitting for a long time. Really don't like you sitting for long periods of time. Sorry. But because what happens is that the fluid builds up and your legs get cankly. Now, the other part of that is that's actually not really good for the immune system in your body because those fluids are actually also part of an inflammatory process. So let's keep you strong, let's keep you healthy, and let's roll out those fluids. Okay, now after you've done something like that, it's really useful to then do some calf exercises. So keep your stick there, lift your heels up and down. Now if you can, if you're on a step or if you've got a step somewhere, make sure you hold on to your stick to help you with balance and lifting up and down. Probably a nice 10 with your feet parallel. That will, after you've got the fluid moving a little bit, you're making the muscle pump in your calf muscles work that little bit more. What I like to do after about 10 like that, I go into my little ballerina V and I just drop my heels down and up. Again, for about 10, this is going to work on different sections of your calf muscles. Now, normally I'm going to be very pedantic about how your calf is lifting and no rolling out of the heels. But for this week, you're allowed to get away with a little bit of dodginess, okay? So then, 10 with your heels dropping out. You know that look when kids are going, I need to go to the toilet? This is what we're looking for. Woohoo! It is actually kind of nice also to do this as part of your balance routine. So don't worry if it's too much. You don't have to do 10 all of a sudden. You can do 5 and build up to 10. Now that we've got the feet working, you might want to go back and just do a little bit of a roll. again. And then for some of you who have really tight quads or hamstrings and you want to get the fluid moving again, you might just roll again up and down. I'm not a great fan of this. I know some people love to do it like this so I can get their hammies working. As I say, I'm kind of lucky, my hammies aren't too bad. But if you have got dodgy hammies, please feel free to stretch them out. Now, let's now get some movement in our chest and our thoracic spine. So what we can do, hopefully you can put the stick behind. Now, this is when you may want to use the longer stick because you've got really tight shoulders. So I like to, fortunately, I've got short arms. I like to put the stick around the middle of my back. My description is old lady bra strap. If you don't know what I mean, go and ask your mother. Now, what I'm going to do is keep my hand underneath the stick and I'm just going to bend my knees just a little. And at first, I'm just going to roll from side to side. This is really just to make a note of how your spine is feeling. Don't judge it, just note it. What I now prefer to do is I like to slide my ribs across. Bring the stick up a little bit. Now, some of you may be familiar with a concept called a typewriter. Who knows? We may end up back there one day. But if you haven't, I'm sure you can see a typewriter on the internet somewhere. And basically all you're going to do is be like a little typewriter, moving your ribs from side to side. Once you've done that, it helps loosen out certain joints in your thoracic spine that can get stuck. And then, bending your knees, look at how much more range I've gotten just by doing this stick. So what I'd suggest you do is do a little test exercise, do your typewriters. So remember, it's more ribs, it's not hips, okay? More ribs, less hips. Do your rotations, and again, probably about 10 to 15 from those. Now, what I'd like to also do is just get some shoulder mobility happening for you. So, what I like to do is take the stick wide. Again, if you have tight shoulders, you may want to start with a much bigger and longer stick. So we're going to start from here. Take your arms up and over. Up and over. Now, many of you may not have this level of mobility. If this is where you get to, that is fine. What's most important when you lift your arms up is that you start with your thumbs like this, so your fingers are pointing out. Then you're going to lift it up and just so that your hands are moving to the side. This level of mobility on your wrist is important because when we don't have good shoulder range, we may end up overworking in our wrists. And this is why we have to do certain exercises. So, if you're finding that your arms cannot go up above the head, let's go back to your forearms first. So, for this one, we're going to be here like this. Think you're a child playing with some sort of stick. You know what they're like, ninja warriors. And you're just going to go from there, slowly, turning your hand around. So, we're going to go, turning it around. This is called supination. This is called pronation. And it's a movement anatomically of your forearm. The way I like to remember it is, drink the soup. So, is supination. So again, just a few like that, back and forward. Trying to see if we can just get a little bit of mobility happening in your forearm. Once you've done about 5 or 6 like that, you're then going to go back and let's see how that feels for you to take your arm above the head. Do you feel it's helped you a little bit with your shoulder? Great. If not, don't stress. We've got plenty of time to work through some ideas. Some of the other ways I like to do this is we're going to move our arms from side to side. Now, you can see that what I've done is put my hands nice and wide. That's for those of you who have limited mobility in the shoulders. If you need to, we're going to start from here, and you're just going to roll from side to side. So thinking of it this way, your arms going, you're twisting your body, you're coming to parallel like this, and then you're turning away. I want you to think of yourself as if you're kayaking along the river, okay? So can you see that I'm getting a nice sort of sense of a figure 8? And I'm actually starting to have a little bit of fun, and I'm getting my spine moving as well. So probably about 10 to 15 like that. Go back, see how, oh my gosh, that's fantastic. This stuff works. It's kind of weird, isn't it? So next thing I'd like you to do, again, this is about mobilizing your legs and your arms. What I'd like you to see is if you can hold the stick parallel in front of you. Now the idea is that this is going to help with the elbow. Some of you might get tennis elbow or golfer's elbow because of your hands are fixed and you're using so much of your mouse at the moment. Now this is an example of you may want to start with a smaller stick because the longer the stick, the harder this is going to be. So what you want to do is you're going to have your hand out like this. And what I'd like you to see if you can do is to keep the stick parallel to the floor for as long as you can. So for maybe a good 30 seconds, as soon as you start to see that happening, stop, reset, and then we can do this again. What I think you should do is probably about 5, maybe even if you start at 10 to 20 seconds. Then the second way around you're going to do it is have the stick standing behind you. So here, I'll just show you here. Again, you want to keep the stick parallel, none of this dropping. So you want to have this from side to side. I would get you to do this maybe 10 to 20 seconds on each side, and then come back and say, oh, whoa, this is feeling good. So there's some nice simple ideas for you with your broomstick. If you're not using it, you're stuck at home, here's some ideas. Thank you and enjoy.